GM, GA, GE, wherever you may be. Today, we're going to be talking Apecoin. Apecoin is finally here. Tyler and I going to talk about what you can expect, everything there is to know, and how the market has already been reacting towards this new drop from the Board Club. Let's get at it. Welcome, Tyler. So today, obviously, we just showed our new little intro, which is good. Our buddy John created. And yeah, Apecoin, it's finally here. We even as close as a week ago, we were thinking, oh, like quarter one is almost over. Is this going to happen? And then it all happened so fast. Basically, yesterday afternoon, they come out and say, here it is, and it's going to launch tomorrow morning. So what was your initial reaction when reading that tweet?
It's taking a step back. It's been just such an insane week. A week ago, we were talking rumor mill if it was even accurate that Yuga was going to buy Yuga Labs and Punks and Mebus, and we thought that was crazy. That closed Friday night, and then fast forward to just 5 days later, Wednesday afternoon at 5 o'clock Eastern, which, by the way, 5 o'clock is when Yuga likes to drop big news. I've started to pick up on that trend. Yesterday afternoon at 5 p.m., the Apecoin tweet comes out and just turns everything into upheaval. And the game has changed, and it's probably never going to be the same.
Yeah, it's interesting because it was almost like even a week ago at this point in time, because they hadn't announced the acquisition yet. Like BAYC was just sort of BAYC, and now it's Yuga Labs. It's almost like they became corporate overnight is how I was kind of wording it. But it's cool where they're just making moves, and this is that next step that we were expecting from them at some point in time. So it's nice to see that they're actually doing it in quarter one, and so far so good for the holders at least.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a slam dunk, home run, grand slam, whatever sports analogy you want to use. There's no better possible outcome for ape owners, for mutant owners. Even the dogs got what I'll call a fair amount.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is a top 5, top 1% outcome, I think. And yeah, God's sake, Strictly Sports put it in the comments. Congrats to all the holders, everyone who diamond handed, especially those who were in early. Man, what a great feeling today had to have been for those folks. So I definitely applaud everyone.
And I think, we'll get into a little of the details, but I think what they did listen to the community in certain aspects of it, as you mentioned with the dogs, the way that they split out the distribution was generally in line with what the floor costs different discrepancies were. Obviously, the thing with the dogs was you couldn't just own a dog in order to do it. So there was some different pushes and sells that happened yesterday as people were trying to anticipate this drop. And so, yeah, basically, if you were a holder of any of these items, like turned out to be a pretty good payday if you sold. I think a lot of people weren't. I'm not sure what the exact number is right now, but I saw it was less than 50% of the people had even claimed it only a couple hours ago. So people are still holding and potentially waiting to claim. I'm not sure. Is there a site that you could see and track which of the apes have been claimed? Because I know they did that with basically all their other drops when the kennel dogs and the serums. Basically, you can see which one came with it. So I'm assuming they did the same for this. But so far, a decent, at least as much as I've seen on like Twitter, the sentiment seems pretty good. Like you mentioned, the only thing that I've heard negative wise is the one-time drop thing versus a consistent yield like per day or anything like that.
So I think there is going to be staking and yield, and we just don't know about it yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, in some ways it's been general sentiment, but I think it's only two camps, and it feels like the NFT space is getting potentially more and more divided right now.
Yeah.
There's the folks who are fans of Yuga and everything that they're doing in general, like utility and NFTs. And then there seems to be, I'll call the older camp, who is a little bit more into just NFTs as collectibles, punks, art, as standing the test of time. And I saw there was a Yuga FUD Spaces on Twitter today. Of all days, as this company is delivering $100,000 airdrop to every ape owner, people are actively flooding them in Twitter Spaces. It kind of blows my mind, but that's
people just hate when others succeed.
That's true. Well, if you want, maybe we can break down the tweet that kind of set everything off here. I can do. I can pull my screen up.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, here we go. 4:02 p.m. So I'm Central. So this is right at 5 o'clock. Apecoin tweets. This is a new account introducing Apecoin, a token for culture, gaming, and commerce, used to empower a decentralized community building the forefront of Web3. So, right there, they allude to the power of their visions and what they plan for this to be. And I've heard the term social token coined and used a lot already today, and that seems to be what this is, right? It's a combination of governance, utility, gatekeeping. It's all that under, I guess, this new brand called social token. So it's exciting to see how they've done it. It seems it's like a perfect launch. So in this tweet thread, they introduced a little bit of the high level. So it's going to be owned and operated by the Apecoin DAO, which is a new DAO that's being spun up for all the Ape token holders. And then the DAO is supported by the Ape Foundation, which is a new legal entity, which will essentially be administering and overseeing the DAO. And there's plans on their site that go into the longer term vision. I think we understand that DAOs are very poor at performing right now. In 2022, at self-organizing and being able to function. So having an administrator team right off the bat to help oversee that is definitely the right move, at least in my opinion. And then they get into some of the tokenomics here, and we'll go through all those. And then they say for more details, visit the Apecoin, and they've got the new, what is now infamous image, the blue Apecoin.
Yeah. It's sort of this like new logo that has been created, and obviously it's still the basic ape head that they use in the regular BAYC logo, which, when talking earlier about how it's now kind of Yuga Labs, this is still separating the BAYC portion. Like, obviously there's not punks or Meebits getting Apecoin directly from this drop. So basically it was pretty clean, I think, how they did like this thread and the website, and then BAYC also had, I think it was the exact same thread, right? Word wise. So that was basically clarifying, hey, this is actually the real deal. And obviously there's been a lot of fake tweets about that type of thing over the past month or so. So I think that was a way that they were just confirming with people, like, this is the legit thing.
No, incredibly smooth. Probably the smoothest that we've seen. I think also this thread came out at 5 p.m. Eastern. The claim started at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, and it was live on exchanges at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. So FTX was the first exchange to have the token, and then all the other major players started launching Apecoin throughout the morning. I think by noon or 1 p.m. it was live just about everywhere. So Kraken, Binance, Gemini, Coinbase, you name it, it was out there. And from an NFT token, we've never seen this scale before with respect to distribution. So it's definitely been impressive.
Yeah, especially with the idea of all these more centralized exchanges. Like, I'm not sure if Coinbase has any other of these tokens on it. We were talking about before the show on the idea of governance tokens, and things like Kongs have been governance tokens, but you can't buy it on Coinbase and FTX and like these other major exchanges. And I think that's where this is really changing, and just shows like the backing of these big players in the space.
And it goes to the potential bull case for the coin, right? So now people are somewhat into crypto. They've been hearing about NFTs, but they're not in it yet. This is an easy, low-cost entry for them to get into the NFT ecosystem for the now number one brand and NFT project here with Yuga Labs and Bored Ape. So I think we'll see a lot of new folks potentially onboarded.
Yeah, because people are going to question, like, what is this? You know, especially depending on how it gets promoted on these sites, like something like Coinbase. The way they usually onboard a lot of these is I'm not sure if you've ever done their little quizzes, but they'll be like, oh, you get 1 ape for each of these quizzes, and here, watch this minute-long video where we describe what the coin is. So I'm assuming there'll be stuff like that, because how many people are going to hop on their Coinbase account today and even look at what this is? So there's going to be some sort of promotion in ways that people are going to be like, oh, that's what it is. A lot of people that won't care, obviously, but we'll see. And based on the opening prices, like as far as market cap goes, this is getting up there in the top coins that are going to be on these sites anyway.
Yeah, and we can quickly go into the price action, then we can hop back to the website. I've got the DEX screener up for those who can see the screen. So it's currently sitting, it's about $7.80. So it's been kind of range bound between $7 and $9. So there's a billion tokens. So fully diluted valuation, FDV, puts it between 7 and 9 billion here in the day one trading. So we had heard the rumors that Yuga had been valued at 5 billion in some of their seed rounds. So I think that was the target that a lot of folks had for where the coin would go. Rightfully or wrongfully, if the ape coin should be pegged to a Yuga Labs valuation or not. I think that's the number that people had in their heads. But the first 30 minutes was just absolute insanity. I don't know if you were following the coin from the get-go.
Most of these coins are like that in that initial launch, the first half hour to hour or so. Very volatile. People are trying to spam selling, buying, trying to get in. There's probably one person got that $1,500 valuation.
Yeah, so I mean, it came out at 160 or something crazy, and then there was multiple sells and buys down from like 160 to 110. So I mean, there were definitely buyers who bought at like $50 a coin, at 30, at 20. It got to 10 pretty quick, and then as we can see here in the 5-minute chart, it basically came down to that range within about 30 to 45 minutes. And then other than a few big liquidity spikes, I think from the exchanges, is basically held that 7 to 9 range.
Yeah, like you could see the moment in which they got added to Coinbase and things like that.
Right. I want to say Coinbase came out at 850, and it was on like Uniswap and other sites at that time. It was closer to like 750 or 775. So there's actually been tons of great arbitrage opportunities today. So I think that the savviest traders who had the flash bots and everything, who know how to manage those arbitrage situations, have cleaned up today for sure.
Yeah. And I think going back to what you were saying on like the market cap stuff, like you can see also on this graph on the side, the market cap is actually only around 630 million, because not all the tokens are out. And we might get into that a little more, but not all of those billion tokens are out. So that's where it's technically, as you said, fully diluted. The valuation is about 8 billion right now, but we won't get full dilution for a few years. So that's where that side of it is. And then also the other half, where this is strictly the token. This isn't valuing the actual NFT assets themselves at 8 billion. So Just wanted to clarify that a little bit, because I mean, I didn't really expect it to necessarily be $8 either. It is currently, but do you think there's a number that this is going to sell at, say, like a week from now? Do you expect it to be closer to 5, closer to 10?
It's so hard to predict.
Yeah.
I think 5 to 8 has probably been the range that's been in my head of where this kind of settles at. But I don't know. I could absolutely see just a slow march up once we get past like the day one volatility. And a lot of people are making the point that, Bored Ape NFT owners and holders are diamond handed and aren't going to be racing to sell the coin. And if they make up a good percentage of the potential supply, then maybe there won't be quite as much sell pressure. And
Yeah.
I think I do buy into that narrative, because if they believed in Yuga and the vision to be able to hold on to their Bored Apes for 6 to 9 months, you can't. That doesn't marry with thinking that this valuation today is the highest that it's ever going to get, right? I think you think that it will continue to increase over time, and it would essentially be selling on IPO day. So I think we'll see some folks, certainly sell off a portion, and rightfully so, right? Take some money off the table, especially for those who've held since like 1 ETH, right? I totally get that. But yeah. I could definitely see some people diamond handing it, and to me, that's what's going to drive this up to potentially the 10 to 15. Like I'm not shocked at all if this coin hits 15.
Yeah, and to go on that point, I think there's a lot of people who are holding it who think, oh, like I'm going to sell some of it. Like they don't want to come out of this and have no Apecoin after, because I think part of the reason of them holding is also to be able to use it in the ecosystem over time. And there's not really, we don't really know how much you might need to participate in these things. The one thing that's come out, at least first thing that is coming out directly from the team in Animatica, is going to be the Benji Bananas game. And so that, right, so like here, it's going to be 25 Ape in order to mint these. So that's obviously a very low number in the grand scheme of how much people are getting, because even for the dogs, you're getting over 800. And so like 25 Ape is a pretty low number. And at this current valuation, that's what, around $200 or so. So seems relatively normal price for minting something. But if they're going to want to mint stuff in the future, you might only need 1,000 Ape long term. You might need 5,000 Ape long term to start doing things, especially if there's going to be like metaverse land sales or things like that. So I think until there's exact reasons and like how much you might need for things, I would expect a lot of people are holding for that as well. And like to sell it at $8, or what if it starts going down, if you sell it at $5, you're still getting a free basically airdrop of tokens. Obviously there'll be people that sell off everything. Like Farouk had that tweet earlier, which I don't know if he clicked swap or not, but he basically showed that it's around a 30 ETH amount that Bored Ape holders were given. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, it's just wild. And I think to what you were saying, I think a lot of people think that this Apecoin is now the currency of the Yuga Lab metaverse, and I think we can get into that more on the website. But they've definitely hinted to that. And if that's the case, if everything, that all of the future NFTs that they're going to be selling, all their new projects, if they're all going to be priced in Ape, that Ape is the currency. So I mean, why sell it?
Right.
Yeah. So that's another indicator. But man, we can see just since we pulled up this stream, the volatility is just wild. So it just ran up to 8 while we were talking, and now it's back down to it hit back down to 750. Now it's back to 8 again. I think it's just a factor of this general lower liquidity in these pools, and just 5 and 7 ETH buys can really move this thing. But it's been wild to see. One thing I will call out though. So on the 6 hour, I'm taking a look at the number of buys and sells. Buys are outnumbering sells 2-1. So I think we're seeing a lot more new entrants into this ecosystem than people who are purely selling off. And I think it's for all those reasons that we outlined.
Yeah. So let's get into a little of what they released on the website and just sort of the in and outs of the token itself, how they decided to drop it, and what we can expect.
Yeah, first, I love this website. It's so well done. Like, clearly, their vision is so well laid out. So I definitely encourage anyone who hasn't taken a look to go over to apecoin.com and take a look through this. Because they've done a masterclass on how to launch a token and a DAO for an NFT project. So I was pretty blown away. But yeah, let's just start going through it. You know, they say they start with Apecoins for the Web3 economy. Let's see. So it will serve as a decentralized protocol layer for community-led initiatives that drive culture forward into the metaverse. So that's here how they end the first paragraph. And then they start getting into the different entities. And we talked about these a little bit. So there's the Ape Foundation, which again is that legal entity that's just meant to oversee the Apecoin DAO. Just a legal entity set up there. It's essentially someone who has to sign the checks. They're going to go out to the various initiatives and proposals. And then we've got the DAO, Apecoin DAO, which is essentially everyone who's got who owns Apecoin is eligible to get into Apecoin DAO. So this is not so even a Bored Ape Yacht Club owner who sells all of their Apecoin isn't eligible for this DAO, as I understand it. So this is, I think that's an important note on where Yuga is transitioning now. So it's almost like Bored Ape Yacht Club Mutants. That was phase one with, you know, a small core set of users. You know, what was the community? About 10 to 15,000 owners across those two projects.
Yeah, I think the Mutants have around like 11,000 owners. So it's probably in that like 13 to 15K range combined.
And here, to me, like they're opening this up. So now they're saying anyone who owns Apecoin can join this DAO, and we want it to be much, much bigger. And they're getting into what I'm interpreting is as phase two. So that was my interpretation of how they've set up the DAO. And then they've got a board for the Ape Foundation that's going to govern this thing, and it's got some heavy hitters on it. For sure. So they've got Alexis Ohanian, the co-founder of Reddit, as one of the board members. Amy Wu, head of ventures in gaming at FTX. Maria Bajwa from Sound Ventures. Yat Su from the chairman of Animoca Brands. Clearly, Animoca is heavily tied in to this. And then Dean Steinbeck, the general counsel from Horizon Labs. So certainly a very legitimate board. And then we get into the Apecoin protocol. I think this is really where this starts to get interesting, and it lays out the potential use cases, right, for what this coin is. And I'm going to start. I've already seen tons of takes on Twitter of this is a useless coin. What does it even do? And to me, I think space so far, especially in the NFT space. So they outline 4 categories: governance, unification of spend, access, and incentivization. So in governance, I think this is the concept that most are familiar with. This is how the token is tied to the DAO, and everyone who owns the token can participate in votes on proposals and all of that. So that's kind of the bread and butter of how governance works with these DAOs. So I think that really wasn't too much of a surprise. Then we've got unification of spend, and this is a big one. So Apecoin is the ecosystem's utility token, giving all its participants a shared and open currency that can be used without centralized intermediaries. So right there, they're saying this is our new currency, so to speak. And then access. So this is Apecoins can provide access to certain parts of the eco, games, merch, events, and services. So right here, now this is unlocking a larger community into all of the benefits that previously just Ape and Mutant owners had before, right? So ApeFest. Is ApeFest going to be open to all Apecoin holders in June? My guess that it is.
Might be like 25 Ape in order to get in.
It very well could be. And then hopefully, I'm really hoping that they're going to launch some Apecoin merch, because I'll be signing up for the Apecoin hoodie. I like this blue that they use in the design quite a bit. But just another step showing that they're going to drive real benefit to the Apecoin holders. And then the incentivization component. Apecoin is a tool for third-party developers to participate in the ecosystem by incorporating Ape into services, games, and other projects. So I didn't really see this. This wasn't on my radar. So this was a bit of a surprise for me. But this is similar to that Treasure DAO and Magic model, potentially, where they're going to incentivize other project teams to come and build in Yugaverse, or whatever you want to call. I'm not ready to call it a meta RPG just yet, just because that's the name from the leaked document. But whatever this Yuga metaverse world is, it looks like they want to bring in new builders, and they're going to essentially give them allocations of Apecoin to do that, which I think is going to be really powerful. And we've seen how, that's the whole treasure model, right? And how that flywheel feeds back to the Magic token, and essentially that's the entire bull case for Magic. Now we have an entire new bull case for Apecoin, besides everything else that we mentioned. So I'll pause there. I just laid out a lot.
Yeah.
But I guess, what was your reaction, reading through all the utility here?
Yeah, like you said, it's not just one thing. They're showing it's pretty well thought out, which I think has come to be expected for this team. And they didn't really rush it like some other teams have. Like, this has been, I don't want to say like 4 months in the making, or I don't remember when they initially said it, but they clearly understand how big they are and how many people want to get in at this low entry point. And I think that's where being able to give access to people for having a lower, say, cost basis getting in, but you're also benefiting people that have been around longer and giving them the opportunity that, if they want to sell it all off, they can. But letting them know that if you stick around, there's going to be uses for it, and you're already ahead in that way, where you already have 10,000 more tokens than someone who just bought on Coinbase. So I think it's good, and obviously, like, it shows that they are thinking about what the use case is going to be for it in the future. We're not really there yet. We don't know all of the use cases for it, but they're making it pretty clear that they plan on using this coin as a way to keep people active within this ecosystem.
Absolutely. So it's not just going to be a one-time deal, a pump and dump. And also, a lot of folks were thinking this was a singular airdrop to the NFT owners, but I think there potentially is going to be more coming. So maybe we can get into the tokenomics.
Yeah. Sort of that last point that you made, the incentivization.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the high level, 62% of tokens went to the ecosystem. So that's the NFT holders and the treasury, 16% to Yuga Labs, with 6% of that going to their charity, 14% to the launch contributors. So I think this is the VCs who helped get this up off the ground, and then 8% to the founders. So of the 62% to the ecosystem, 15% was the initial airdrop, and then 47%, 470 million tokens are going to the DAO treasury, of which 117 million are unlocked at launch, and then 7 million per month. So before we get into that, I think some initial takeaways or reactions from the tokenomics were that it was greedy. So the airdrop was only 15%, and then Yuga Labs and the founders combined for 24%. So I saw the argument that they were taking more than the community was getting, which I don't buy into, but I definitely see that reaction. Were you concerned at all when you saw those that big of the components headed to the founders, the VCs, and Yuga Labs, Lou?
I mean, not really. I think it's funny because obviously with the speculation of people, like they speculate some wild things, and I don't know if I ever saw this low of a number. Maybe like 50. I don't know if I've seen like a 50% estimate, but it seems relatively normal. It doesn't seem wildly outrageous. It's not, like I said, less than 50%. And I think they're sort of using the charity side as a way of maybe making people feel a little better about the number being higher. The launch contributors about 14,000 or 14%, but the big one to me, like the 8% to the founders, that doesn't seem too high. Like it's under 10. So yeah, they seem all right to me. The what's that 47%? That's to the DAO compared to the 15% to current holders. Could be a little high, but I mean we're seeing it today. Like that's still, I think if you take the current price, it's about 25% of what the floor price was. So I don't think anybody is, at least on current levels, is mad at the breakout right now.
Yeah, and agree. I think how I would counter the, is 24% too high to Yuga plus the founders. I think you want the founders to have equity incentive, right, to continue driving value, to keep the coin price high, so to speak. So I'm definitely good with it. And I think people are also missing the 47% to the DAO. So again, 117 million unlocked at launch, then 7.3 million per month for the next 48 months. So my read on that is that's staking, and potential like P2E type rewards are coming from that monthly allocation. And I think that's going to be the potential game changer. And if the BAYC, MOYC NFTs level up to the next level, say like 150, 200 ETH floors, it's going to be tied to that potential staking mechanism. And it's not confirmed. This is all just guessing and speculation right now. I do think there are some proposals already in front of the DAO for how some staking mechanisms could work. But that's my guess, is that they'll have a staking, and they'll probably be somewhat tied into the percent allocations that the airdrop would be my guess. But if they do Apecoin staking at these market cap valuations, I think everyone's going to do it, right? I mean, it's going to be some serious sell supply reduction at a minimum, and I think a lot of folks are going to want to get in.
Yeah, and I think as of now, like what we've seen, I haven't really seen anything on Twitter that people that own it and are getting the airdrops. I don't think any of those people have been mad about this yet. And I think that's like the most important one. Outsiders are going to try to find ways to complain about something they're not getting either way. So, so far so good, I think. And then, yeah, so here's the breakdown of the actual claim today that started. If you're able to have a Bored Ape, then obviously you got a good amount of tokens here. But what was your take on this? Because the big thing I think people are talking about was really the kennel dog side of it, where obviously, like, if you had a kennel dog alone, you didn't get anything. You had to still have a mutant or a Bored Ape.
Yeah, overall, I thought it was a pretty fair allocation. So it was 10,094 to Bored Apes, 2,042 to mutants, and then essentially the Kennel Club dogs, you got like a 9% bonus, or 900 tokens basically, but you had to pair them with an ape or a mutant. And then like they had a specific FAQ on their site essentially outlining that the dogs are always meant to be companions. They're essentially not the primary like owners or community members for the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And I don't think that's a huge shocker. And I really haven't seen too much complaints about the breakdown. 5-1 for the tokens for apes to mutants. I thought it could have been closer to 4-1. Some people were even thinking maybe 2-1, right? So I mean, this is about as far of a separation as possible. But again, I haven't really seen too much negative reaction to that. So the market seems to be pretty okay with it.
Yeah, and I think the price, it has kind of been around 5x for a decent amount of time. So like 15 versus 75, it's been relatively that the past couple weeks. So I think that's pretty fine in my thought. I know some people are thinking the 2-to-1, and that just seemed pretty ridiculous. If that was the case, then it would have changed the prices of each. So maybe they just thought of that in general, where, oh, if we make it 2-to-1, is that going to crush the floor of Bored Apes? Because all of a sudden, is that going to come down as maybe mutants come up and you get closer to like 25 versus 50 or something? So I think they kept some of that in mind when doing this. And then obviously they came out and pretty much said that the kennel dogs are just companions. And I don't know, they've always kind of left the dogs behind in a way, just as seen by other things like the game that they had. It was mutants versus apes, like the dogs never really mattered in that sense. So if you've been holding a dog this long and you haven't sold it yet, it did get a little run yesterday because people that had one of the mutants or apes and didn't have the dog went and started buying the dogs up, or if they had like a mismatch number wise. So it was cool to see that for people that had the dogs. Like long term, I think it's kind of bearish, but in that short term, they had that ability to have the exit liquidity.
Yeah, it was a big pump yesterday afternoon for the dogs. And I think right off the bat, it was a little unclear what was going to happen, if the dogs were going to tank. But in fact, it was the opposite. I think the big question mark for them is how important are the dogs in the 2022 roadmap? And I think we'll get to that later. Before we move off the website, just the last thing I want to cover here. It's in the FAQ, and I missed it on my first 2 reads through the site. But when they're explaining the different parties and they explain Yuga Labs, Yuga Labs is a Web3 company best known for the creation of the Bored Ape Yacht Club. It will be a community member in the Apecoin DAO and will adopt Ape as the primary token across new projects. So that was another really important statement that's kind of hidden on this site, is reaffirming that A, Yuga is going to build out new projects. You can expect that. And B, Apecoin is going to be the center of all of it. It's going to be the currency. So this is now their focus, and probably the most important component of this overall ecosystem right now is this Apecoin.
Yeah, it does seem like they're making sure that people want it. They want to long term make this valuable to people, even if you don't have 100 ETH to spend on Bored Ape. So we've already seen it. There's been 4 or 5 different projects that have tweeted since yesterday saying they'll accept Ape in their game, this, that. And I think that's going to become at least a short-term meta with some of these. We saw that with like the NFT worlds. The world token all of a sudden became like the hot keyword on roadmaps. So we'll probably see that in the next few weeks, at least with Ape. And, some of them it'll be worth it looking into, and others it'll just be they're just trying to sell their item or whatever.
Also, shout out to the 11 condo building down in Miami, which is, they announced they're accepting Apecoin for their physical properties as well. One of the just additional utility for the Apecoin holders. And now there's certainly a number of Ape owners who are wealthy enough to afford those, likely just from this airdrop. Maybe we can get into some of the market action that spun up from this. So we can start with the Bored Apes. So it was just an absolute roller coaster of a 12 to 16 hour window here from 5 p.m. yesterday. I think the floor was right around 88. I want to say it was pegged right there, like 88 to 92-ish. As soon as the announcement came, the dogs and the mutants started running first, and then I think people did the math and figured out that the apes were a smart bet. And then the apes started running. They moved from 90 to about 109 was where they were at this morning, within about 30 minutes of the airdrop claim. 81. So that was the peak I saw. And then immediately after the airdrop, dropped all the way back to 77. And there were a few minutes there where it was like, where is this gonna land? The floor is crashing right now. How low do we go? But then it quickly rebounded to 89, and we're back to where we were yesterday with a 100K airdrop or 70K, 80K airdrop now in owners' pockets, which to me is shocking and is just an incredibly bullish indicator on the future of this NFT project and how they're held in esteem.
And I'd love to see some stats on that because obviously, as we had mentioned earlier, less than half of the people have even claimed it. So I wonder how many people completely sold off 30 ETH worth, because yesterday, if you played this correctly, you could have bought into an ape at, as you mentioned, like in this 90, 95 range, like right when the news came out. I think it was around 95. So the news came out. If you bought one right away at 95, and then you could have, as you mentioned, sold it today at like 80, but also sold the original airdrop for about 30 ETH. So then you're at what, 110 ETH. You can then buy back in and still have pocketed about 20 ETH if you played it correctly. Obviously, some people, it ran up to 115 or something last night. So it definitely got to a point where that break even was gone. You saw some people were playing that game. People also tried it with the others, but I think the apes themselves, the Bored Apes, they were the only ones that it really worked out for, I think, because of what you mentioned, that they kind of came back floor price to where they were before. And then the other thing is, there's a lot of these athletes and celebrities who have apes who, do they even know what to claim? Do they even know this side of it? And I think there's more of them that are in the Bored Ape side. And so that's probably why the price of that is a little up. And the mutants are more for people that have been playing the NFT game for a little bit. I don't know. I guess that's sort of my take. Got the message in chat wondering if this is going to be a stimmy for other NFT projects. Like if someone just did what I described and just pocketed 20 ETH, what are they going to do with that 20 ETH now?
I absolutely, it's going to be a stimmy is my take. I think this is bullish for the entire NFT market. And I think there's a lot to unpack there, at the high level. So there was a ton of chatter yesterday that this was going to be a liquidity drain, that all the other projects' floor prices were going to suffer as people were selling off to funnel their money either into the BAYC eco or into Apecoin, or potentially both. But that's not true. and the data does not really back that up. So we're showing the lucky trader board here, filtered by floor price. And most of the floors for the other non-BAYC eco projects have basically held up on the day. Like we saw a slight dip, but they've already bounced back. So Doodles were at 13. I think they dropped to 11. They're back to 12.5 or 13. Clone X dropped to 11. I saw them back at 12.2 already. Azuki's dropped into the 8s. They're back in the mid 9s. World of Women, I don't think really ever dipped. They've kind of held constant at 8.8. The Cool Cats, fairly steady. Invisible Friends down 1%. So I think that's a bit of a false narrative. And overall, the other, high-end PFPs have done just fine, which is actually surprising to me, just because transparently I sold off 20 to 30% of a lot of my bags to load up funds for the potential Apecoin launch. And I thought more folks would do that. But if they have, it looks like the funds have already started rotating back into other projects. I think it's just a sign of what's to come.
Yeah, and sort of like one of the points I had made earlier is I think people just don't know how much Apecoin they need for stuff. And also, if people were expecting it to be at $5, now it's at in the $8 range. I know from my point of view, like looking at it, it seemed a little pricey to go into it right now. We normally will see a little spike that first day after drops like this of new coins, and then it'll balance out a little lower over time. Obviously, this is different than something like a Looks Rare or a POW token. Was somewhat similar but had no use right away. The Milk token still doesn't really have a use, so it's hard to compare it to some of these other ones. The Looks one, I mean, I think you had staked that a little bit as well, but that was immediate staking, so I think that held the price up for a little bit after. Um, so I think it's more people are waiting to see, like, what are the use cases for Ape if I'm not an Ape holder? And I don't think a ton of Ape holders went and sold it, so I don't know how much liquidity is there. And I think it's just a couple different things involved, but I agree that, like, I expected a little more drop off of some of these items just from the fact that, like, apes are just so far away ahead right now. But a lot of these are holding up decently.
Definitely. And I think we got a question in the chat about, where's that money going to go? And I think my take is it's going to go to the similar PFP style projects who have similar visions, right? And who have alluded to tokens, who have alluded to bigger plans for metaverses. And to me, I think that
try front run.
The top two are CloneX and Azuki. I'm going to put Doodles aside for right now. I think CloneX and Azuki are the top two beneficiaries from this. We've seen CloneX drive tremendous value via airdrops to their owners already. We know there's about a 10% overlap in wallets across BAYC and CloneX, so it's a similar user base already. I think they've got similar expectations. They could see that world growing the same way. And then going down the board, a product that's caught some hype, and we've touched on this show in the last couple of weeks, Gutter Cat Gang, right? They've got big plans. They just expanded their universe by 28,000 NFTs. They've got the gang token potentially coming out. It's a ton of execution risk. And again, not many teams have pulled this off. But the good news is Yuga's outlined the roadmap on how to do these things the right way. So I think they're a potential winner in all this too.
Yeah, which they've kind of done, I think, in the past, obviously with like the mutants, how they did that, I think paved the way for a lot of stuff. Packtrip is asking about the Cool Cats. He's saying they're holding tight. Did they already get their milk drop? So that game is currently in beta, and I believe they said there's going to be another 100 users tomorrow that they're going to add. I'm not currently in that list of users yet, but I've seen some people playing it so far. The price of the milk tokens around 4 cents or so, and Cool Cat holders are making at least 1,000 tokens per day on that, even right now. But if you're a pet holder, you don't make anything. And the price of Cool Cats is now down in the 7s, where right before that drop, it was around 15. So they have taken a pretty decent hit. I think a lot of that does have to do with the fact that it wasn't a clean process. So assuming that, at least so far, this ape process has been pretty smooth, but I think you are going to start having to deliver stuff because people get impatient very quickly in this space. And this is the hot thing right now. But if 2 weeks from now, there's still no use case for anything ape related, then people are going to start questioning, and that's going to come with it. So there's a lot more pressure now. Once the token's out there, to keep giving reasons for people to be buying it.
Totally agree. And I want to get to that as well. But can we do just a quick 30, 60 seconds on additional rumor mill for Yuga?
Definitely.
So the latest rumors are not that the acquisitions did not stop with Larva Labs, and that it's World of Women and Cool Cats have already been essentially acquired by Yuga. and would potentially be folding into this umbrella. So do with that what you will. It's not confirmed in any way. It's totally a rumor. This time last week, I thought the Larva Labs rumor was totally false, and there's no way that was true. They've proven that they've got an acquisition mindset. They've got huge war chest of funds. So they've got the Gaio Siri connection with World of Women. So I see that, as a potential in route. And then Cool Cats. I don't understand that one quite as much, but we know Cool Cats has got a cult following. It's a different PFP project with a very cool game conceptually. I think Yuga could potentially save Cool Cats if this goes through. What's your reaction to the rumor mill?
My take is World of Women makes sense, like a lot of sense to me. I've been, I don't want to say like a World of Women truther for a while, but they just seem like they've consistently been the leader in female-led projects, and they've always had that narrative behind them. And a lot of females that come into the space, it's like this is the first NFT they have, so I think there's a lot of those like diamond hand holders as part of it. But the Cool Cats one does not make any sense to me at all. Like the whole point of Milk was to be their own ecosystem, their own version of what Apecoin is doing, and it just sounds like giving in if they do this. Obviously I am a Cool Cats owner, and to me, I think that would sort of turn me off of the reasonings why I got into Cool Cats originally. Maybe it'll have like a short-term pump or something, but I don't know. It's tough for me because that always seems like that's what they haven't wanted. Cool Cats specifically. Doodles are similar, where they've been talking about how they're not. People have come to them wanting to acquire, and they said no. So I don't know. To me, Cool Cats doesn't make much sense. And your reasoning was because there was a leaked photo, right?
Yeah, so that's another part of this is there's a leaked screen grab from a potential trailer for Yugaverse, or whatever we want to call the metaverse that they're building, meta RPG if you want to use that term. But it's got the mutant in there, and then it's got 4 or 5 other NFTs. It's got a Cool Cat. It's got the World of Women.
Toads. World of Women. It was Toads was one. Yeah, the nouns. Is it the original nouns that it was?
I think it is the original nouns. Yeah, so that opens up a lot of questions. That one kind of makes sense
to me because there's a lot of overlap with the punks on nouns.
Definitely. And I mean, for one, those are CCO, so of course they can, essentially do whatever. I think that my gut reaction to that is they're opening up a metaverse where, to start with, those NFT owners can use those NFTs as avatars, kind of similar to how World Wide Web land works right now. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a chance that the acquisition rumors are simply tied to, that screen grab that's been.
Do you have that as one of your links up, or no?
I don't have it handy.
Okay, someone in chat was wondering.
Yeah, I wish I did.
But yeah, I think it was going around a little yesterday, but I don't know. There was also that other deck that got leaked that they immediately came out and said, "Oh, that's not real." And yeah, we could show that right here. Because some of this, I know we've been talking about how some of this makes a lot of sense that it would be. Maybe it's not exactly this, but yeah, let's click into here. Let's talk about this real quick. So this includes the main thing people are focused on is mecha dogs. So another way to give potentially the BAKC some value, and that on this roadmap was supposed to be in September. But I think the big thing here is they're basically saying there's going to be one thing each month. The 8 Fest in June makes sense because that's when they did it last time, was at NFT NYC. So what's sort of your take on this? Because I know they came out and basically said this isn't right, but do you think some of these things will be happening?
I have a lot of reactions to this, and there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
So first, the first 2 milestones of this roadmap are correct, right? So the BAYC versus NAYC happened in January. That game was rolled out, And then in March, Ape Token. It says March Ape Token and Metaverse land sale. So we've got Ape Token already. So we've got 2 green check marks on this roadmap already. So there was at least some truth to this roadmap. Now, of course, they came out and said this was from a pitch deck that the founders didn't even create. I guess you have to take their word for it. I mean, that's a big statement to come out and just totally lie about. But then in another tweet, they said, fuck doing what's expected, back to the lab. Which to me, you wouldn't say back to the lab if you were already working on a different roadmap. So to me, that kind of is him alluding to that there was some truth in this. So is this going to be the full roadmap exactly, line by line that we see play out in 2022? Probably not now, because I think they'll go back to the lab and make some changes. But I don't know. I feel like this is directionally accurate for what their plans seem to be.
Yeah. So then I think from here it's almost like, are they going to purposely not do these things now that it's out? Will they still do some of these things? Because I know the trial of Jimmy the Monkey, if I remember from that roadmap 2.0 that they came out with, I believe that was part of it. And there was something, maybe it wasn't Mecha Dogs, but there was something with dogs part of it. Like a lot of these things were part of that roadmap. Mm-hmm. So maybe they just don't want to give exact dates because, when you give exact dates and you miss deadlines, then that's where FUD comes in. So maybe that's what their issue really was maybe they were trying to aim for these dates, but don't want to put it out there and be off.
Yeah, and of course, like this ruins a lot of the fun. Right, and the surprise. And I think most ape owners have kind of come out and said that as well, right? Like it's fun to be surprised and 12 hours in advance, find out about the ape token launch. I saw some theories that everything will be priced in advance, and it's going to be very hard to predict market reactions. But I don't know. Clearly, ape token wasn't priced in based on what we saw on the market action in the last 24 hours. So I don't know that I totally buy into this, but another overarching theme of this roadmap is it was tied to like a $470 million revenue year for Yuga, primarily driven across the 2 land sales. So the Metaverse 100,000 land sale, which is supposedly coming in March, according to this, and then another land sale in August, 200,000 plots. That generated a lot of FUD in NFT Twitter this week.
Yeah.
People were, calling it, a huge cash grab. They've been raising money through VCs. Why do they need to take additional, liquidity from the market? I'm curious if that sentiment's already changed with this Apecoin drop and the liquidity that they've essentially pumped back in already through that drop. But it's big. I mean, 100,000 pieces of land is certainly going to be their biggest drop to date. It's going to be a lot to think about there. But the initial theory is 30,000 are going to the BAYC, MAYC, and then 70,000 for public. And if that's the case with how hot Apecoin is, I'm calling a gas war for the 70,000. And I think it'll sell out in a matter of minutes.
I think it almost doesn't depend. No matter what the price is, unless it's priced in ape, and that could be something down the line if they start doing each of these pieces that we're showing right now. If there's an ape price to them, which I would expect everything they do moving forward, say you can pay with 1 ETH or you can pay with whatever ends up being, like, say, just 1,000 of Apecoin. I think right now it's around 400 ape to an Ethereum. But let's just say, like, in the future, they have it set up that way where anything that they do, all of these things that require purchases, including the merch drops, are going to be based in ape. And I think one thing that they did mention, I'm not sure, like, if we want to get into, probably not. We've been talking for a while. I don't know if we need to get into the marketplace stuff because I don't think most of that doesn't seem like it's confirmed or just the specifics. So that could be for another show. But basically, any of these ape purchases in the future, that's going to go back into the treasury. Like that's where the cut is going to go. And say that they take this off of OpenSea and they use their own marketplace similar to what the punks have done. The fees on there will go into the treasury. So they're trying to keep everything within its own ecosystem, which honestly probably is the best way for them to do it.
Yeah, and I totally subscribe to that theory. I absolutely think that is going to happen, and I'll be shocked if any of these drops on this roadmap are not priced in Apecoin. I think Apecoin is the currency of this world going forward. We just have to accept it and start to prepare for it. I think a surprise to me is airdropping Kodas. What are Kodas? That's one of the big mysteries of this roadmap. Do you have any idea what a coda is?
Oh, like just in general?
The May milestone, airdropping codas.
So a thesis that I've had since they did the actual punks drop is I feel like they're going to do something that's like combining the two worlds in a way. So maybe if they also end up announcing acquiring any of these other ones, my guess is this is going to be something for those owners. I can't really read it from my side of it, but
sure.
It says a mintable NFT?
So as mintable NFTs, creating secondary sales, projected revenue savers 2.3 million.
So then what's the airdrop side of it if it's mintable? That was the part that I wasn't really sure about on those. It's like, is it going to be something, in my mind, I thought they're going to do something that includes the Punk and Bebit owners because they didn't in the coin airdrop. So my thought was this is going to be something eligible to those holders as well. Maybe also the Apecoin holders. But I don't know, just based on your original question, like, is it a type of animal or something? Not exactly sure, but we'll see. I think that'll be, going back to your point on like the first two pieces of this actually happened. Well, not the land sale yet, at least. Yeah, if they do drop something named Codas, that's going to bring this whole discussion back as to if that happens in May, then people are going to be like, all right, the rest of this is true because we've gotten all of this right. And maybe they just slash the land sale because there was also that theory out that people said once that it came out, people flooded it. So they're just not going to do it, at least not yet.
That seems like such a pivotal part of this plan, though, which is why I'll be surprised if they pull that. And also,
it might not be as massive or something.
Isn't that what we think that the Animoca whole KYC,
the game,
something is brewing that XYZ is likely tied to? I like your idea about kind of combining the communities, kind of an olive branch to punks and Bebit owners who they haven't gotten anything so far. They came out and said they were going to leave them alone, but I think that will be well received. I actually hadn't thought about that, so
it's more like. And now that we're in this sort of like whitelist meta, it's more like they're going to do something where if you own one of their three, BAYC, BAKC, it's basically just any Yuga PFP at that point. Like, I'm not sure if maybe that's how we start describing them. It's almost like now we kind of have to sector these things off, right? There's the Yuga Labs section, but now that's under Yuga. But I feel like we need to come up with something that, for the apes, mutants, and kennel dogs, like that needs to be its own like something name that I don't know if it's necessarily been clarified yet, but especially if they start adding more of these smaller projects and smaller, if it's World of Woman, that's still a pretty massive project, but smaller in the grand scheme of things, smaller than them. So there's going to have to be like these sort of sectors, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. And we touched on Mecha a little bit. I think there was a comment here that says that the BAYC Twitter actually alluded to some Mecha stuff here on their Twitter in the last 24 hours, powered by Apecoin. So I don't know. A lot of this seems very, very believable, but who knows? I think the land sale. We've only got 2 weeks for March, so my gut is we will see a land sale in the next 2 weeks, and I'll be surprised. I'll be surprised if we don't, and I'm preparing for that because I will be a buyer.
Okay. Yeah, and then I did just want to touch before we go on the Benji bananas because that's a little more timely. So today, Inamoka announced. Actually, Gio, I don't know if you follow them on Twitter specifically, but they've had like 3 days in a row where they're announcing these partnerships. They're becoming a massive brand in gaming, specifically in Web3, and becoming sort of the leader in the space. They had an announcement that they were part of the Rebelbots 2 million raise, and then they had another one that came out, might have been this morning. But yeah, this Benji Bananas game that already exists on mobile apps for free. And it's sort of I'm not sure what they call it, that style of game. But there's a lot of games like this where it's basically you go as far as you can in the game and you get bananas is essentially the point system. And they're going to have a drop today at 9 p.m. Eastern, and it's going to cost 25 ape. And I think it's 5 is the max per wallet or transaction. I think it was per wallet. But the key thing to note on this, if you are going to go for this drop, you have to approve Apecoin beforehand. I'm not sure. I think we're both kind of expecting this to be somewhat of a gas war. I think this is like the first thing that you can use Ape on. That's where I think people are going to want to come out and do it. It's the type of thing where this is sort of the big reason that I was interested in buying some Ape today, was to potentially get in on this drop. Don't exactly know specifics of what you're going to get with these NFTs, but it's going to be some sort of play to earn game. And this is already a game that exists, something we've been like looking for in general, like games that already exist, that it currently has a currency that's just bananas that don't mean anything. But if you're able to buy stuff with Ape, if you're able to maybe earn Ape through playing the game, then I could see this being something that catches on.
Yeah, I mean, this is, one of the use cases for the play to earn metaverse brand world that they're building, right? We're going to see more and more of these come out. If we're seeing one per week, am I going to go after all of them and think they're all profitable? Probably not over time as it gets more saturated. But this very first one, I think a lot of people are excited. A lot of people have a lot of fresh Apecoin in their wallets.
For a lot of these things, like the first to do it, like that happened with like the Wolf games. Whenever they had all the clones, like the first one was successful. The 5th one, it started going downhill, so I think that's what's going to happen with some of these. But this arcade one, that's the one that came out earlier.
Yeah, so
this is another one that is like a reasonable name. Like I think it's already a known sort of arcade, like that brand itself. So some of these are going to make sense. The things like the 11, is anyone actually going to buy an apartment with Ape?
Yes,
I mean, one person probably will, just as they say, for the culture. But yeah, I think a lot of these, as I had mentioned earlier, it's going to become like this is the new roadmap item that people are going to use as the hot keyword. But I think there are going to be some that it looks like they actually partnered with Apecoin. The other one is from Animoca, who's already connected to Bored Ape. So I think check on the brand that's doing it. New PFP projects that you've never heard of before that come out and say they're doing it, probably be a little more skeptical on. But some of these, I believe that this one was probably a little more planned. The Benji one seemed very planned. It was announced right after Apecoin was announced. So I think just make sure you're checking and seeing that they're pretty legit and actually connected to the BAYC brand.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm surprised that we've already seen 2 here. The coin's been live for.
There've been a couple others that are, like you look at it, you're like, are you just saying that you're going to accept Apecoin?
So at some point, they're going to have to pump the brakes a little bit. Like if we get 10 games that are P2E using Apecoin the next 5 days, I mean, I guess
search each other.
If they've all got existing user bases, it could be some increased demand. For the token. So who knows?
Yeah, it's gonna be wild. Next week, everyone's gonna be playing all these ape games, earning ape coins. So yeah, cool. We covered a lot. Obviously, this was more of a special edition type of show, but yeah, we'll be back on Monday. We won't be having a Thursday show next week. Likely, I'm going to be in Vegas. We were supposed to go there for NFT Land, which is now canceled. So I'm not sure. I might try to set up a laptop and do something or not, but we'll see. As of now, not planning on doing a Thursday show, but we'll still be doing the Monday show after a weekend of seeing, maybe there's another 20 games that have ape by then. And we'll have some different takes, but hopefully we'll have some stuff to talk about on Monday, and hopefully this will help out the market a little bit. And come Monday, we'll have some good potential stuff to talk about for the upcoming week.
Absolutely. Do you think Vegas casinos will be accepting Apecoin by next Thursday when you were there?
Oh man, I hope so. That'd be fun. Last time I went, they weren't even accepting Ethereum then, but there's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Bitcoin ATM somewhere in Vegas. There almost has to be at this point, right?
For sure.
So we'll see. Maybe. I don't think Vegas is big on crypto yet, but it's a market that's probably, that's a place that they'll want to go eventually. So
we'll see it.
Yeah. So cool. Well, thanks for hopping on. I'll in about 45 minutes. I have it on the schedule as being with So Rare. That one's not going to be live streamed, so we'll be producing that a little more and bringing it out tomorrow. But tomorrow night we'll be doing a live stream with Gutter Cat Gang. So I know we have some people in the audience that are Gutter holders. We're gonna have Gutter Wang on and talk a little about gutter juice and what's to come with those clones. So that should be an exciting show. They're a fun group of people over there at the Gutter Cat Gang. So that one will be tomorrow. But thanks for joining today, and we'll see you guys on Monday.